Hola! And welcome back. So now we are on to Scotch eggs. So yesterday we obviously did sausage rolls, which were delicious. They were obviously for Ben Martin. These are now Scotch eggs for Liam, who had them, I think, at a Christmas party a couple of years ago. I have been asked a few times by a few friends how you get a Scotch egg to be runny in the middle. So hopefully that is what I'm now going to show you. So what you need for this is the leftover sausage meat from yesterday, from the sausage rolls. We've got some plain flour in a bowl here. We've got the rest of the egg from yesterday as well. I just kept it in the fridge overnight. I'm going to add a little bit of milk to that. I've also got 3 eggs. We're actually going to make 2 Scotch eggs, but it's always good to do an extra egg just in case when you're peeling it, if it breaks or if it's too soft or etc. Then we have got some sunflower oil, which is going to go in a cast iron pan to deep fry once we have breadcrumbed the eggs. So the last thing we've then got is some bread to make our own breadcrumbs. So don't know if you can sort of tell, but this is, I have basically just left 4 pieces of just normal basic white bread. Left it out for a day, 2 days.
About a day.
And then it has now gone really lovely and crispy, which means it will make yummy breadcrumbs. If you don't have time and you want to make these immediately, then you can always pop it in the oven. You'll just get a dark colour on your breadcrumb, which is no bad thing. If you've got brown bread, that's absolutely fine. If you've got sourdough bread, again, fine. Basically, you just want it to be hard. You can also obviously use panko breadcrumbs, which you can buy. You can also get those orange breadcrumbs, which are pre-made. They're not as nice, but they will totally do the job. So we've got a Magimix, which is very, very old, and it was my mummy's, but it still works amazingly after about 30 years. So I'm just going to blitz these in a Magimix. If you don't have a Magimix, a NutriBullet is absolutely fine. Or if you don't have anything electrical, just put them in a Ziploc bag and smash it to death. You might end up with bigger breadcrumbs, but it doesn't matter. So we are now going to hopefully blitz. So those are good. I'll show you. So that's what we've ended up with in terms of breadcrumbs. So they're nice and fine. There are a few bigger bits in, but that doesn't matter. So these we're going to tip into there. So what we have now got is the pane system. So we have got, if we remove our sausage meat for now, so flour, egg and breadcrumbs. So paneing is a form of obviously breadcrumbing. So you can do it with chicken escallops, so you butterfly out a chicken breast, maybe that's something we might do, or fish fingers, homemade fish fingers, anything basically that you want to breadcrumb. Flour first, then your egg mix, then your breadcrumbs. We'll show you obviously when we get to that part. But so that is all ready to go. So now it's on to our eggies. Top tip for the eggs, room temperature eggs. Don't use fridge eggs. I never put my eggs in the fridge. That is total personal preference, obviously. If you are wanting to make these Scotch eggs though, the timing is obviously key. So get them out the night before, leave them out, they'll be absolutely fine. And then get some water boiling, which we are doing. And then you want to slowly lower your egg one at a time, but in quick succession, into the boiling water for 5 minutes. So as soon as they're in, to bubbling, boiling water, room temp eggs, 5 minutes. That is the first timing. So once your water is boiling, like this, a nice rolling boil, I'm going to get my egg, and using a slatted spoon, I'm just going to lower it in gently, there we go, all 3 of them in, and then set your 5-minute timer, and then we'll get them out. These have now been boiling for 5 minutes, so I'm now going to drain them off, and then I'm going to run cold water over them until they go completely cold. The other option you can do is putting them into a bowl of ice and cold water, but I find this method is the best for me. Our eggs have now boiled for 5 minutes, and I've kept them in a little bit of their water, the cold water. We're just going to peel them. So tip for peeling eggs, crack it on the side all the way around, and then put them back in the water. So crack, all the way around and back in the water. The reason for this is that then the water gets in between the shell and the egg, and so they should be easier to peel. So then we start with our one. Somewhere. You see the shell comes off nice and easily. You will notice that the egg is obviously, just rinse off any excess. The egg is quite soft, but not too, it's holding its shape. If for any reason, and it does sometimes happen, you peel your egg and it completely falls apart, or it's cracked, or anything like that. It could be down to freshness, it could be down to your water, it could be the temperature of the egg, as I said. So if for any reason they don't work, or they will fall apart, or whatever, just start again. There slightly is no saving them. So those are all rinsed off. Don't get rid of this yet, because we're going to use it for this next section. So obviously the next section is wrapping. Get our sausage meat, half, in your hands. Get a little bit of the water from the pan and wet the palm of your hand. That will just help to not stick, for the sausage meat to not stick. What you want to do is just the size of whatever your hand is, just push it out so that you're looking for an even patty in terms of the width of it. So just try and remove it, make sure you can, perfect. Then we're going to get our eggie, pop it in the middle, and then very gently you want to fold and close it up. And then the way that I do this is just to push, clip. And any excess that you don't need, just get rid of on the folds on the ends, okay? So we'll just pull a bit of that away, and then just try not to have any holes. So just make sure the join is all nicely smooth. Oh, there's a hole. So just move the sausage meat around. There we go. Okay, so then you want to shape them. Some people like them in an egg shape. I just like them as a round, which does make it easier. So you can then just sort of gently squidge so that it's nicely, so there's no air in between the egg and the sausage meat. So just working it through in your hand and into a ball. So that's then what you end up with. It is quite delicate, so just be gentle and pop that into your flour. And then we're going to repeat with the other one. We're now going to do our panning. So we've got 1 egg in the flour. Don't worry about washing your hands in between, because you're just going to get messy. If you can, gently do this with one hand. If you can use one hand for dry and one hand for the egg, then you won't get all clumpy and you can end up doing a lot more than just the one at a time without having to wash your hands in between. So I've gently rolled it. I've then dusted it off by just banging it around gently in my hand. Now I'm going to pop it into the egg. Use our wet hand just to gently turn again. Don't worry if it's a bit slippery. There we go. Drain it off just in your fingers into your breadcrumbs. Sprinkle on top and then give it a roll around. There we go. Good coverage. Perfect. At this stage you can do another layer. So you can go straight from the breadcrumbs into the flour, into the egg, back into the breadcrumbs if you want to do a double coating. I quite like a thin coating on my Scotch egg, so I'm just going to do one. If you're using panko breadcrumbs or cornflakes or anything else, crisps, you'll get a bigger, thicker, denser texture anyway than this fine breadcrumb. So just see how you feel. I'm going to leave mine like that and just wash my hands quickly. So at this stage, we've now got our 2 breadcrumbed Scotch eggs ready to go. I've put the sunflower oil into a cast iron pan, one of our Le Creuset ones, and we put the whole bottle in, which is about this much up the pan. You basically want, depending on what size Scotch egg you've made, you want the oil to come over. You are deep frying, not shallow frying for this. This is obviously a bit dangerous, so if you are doing it with children, this is the moment that the grown-ups need to step in. So deep frying is obviously at home in a pan is slightly dangerous, but as long as you're sensible about it, there should be, fingers crossed, no problems. So we do ours on a gas hob. It's much more dangerous to do it on a gas hob, but we don't have a choice. So I basically have it on a very low heat, let it come up to temperature very slowly, so there isn't any bubbling, And then when I lower the Scotch eggs in, you'll see we do it very gently so there's no splash over, because it's the hot oil mixed with the flame. That's when you have a fire. So we're going to move over and we're going to pop them into our oil. We're going to take our Scotch egg and we're going to gently lower it in. Move it slightly to the side, and we can get the other one in there because there isn't quite enough oil to cover it. If you do have that problem, don't worry too much, you can just turn them during. So now we're going to set our timer for 7 minutes. I'll repeat that at the end of the video. So as you can see, some of the meat juice is coming out into the oil, so it's spluttering quite a lot. This is the only thing why I want you to be careful with the naked flame. So I've now turned it off. They've been in for 7 minutes. So with my slotted spoon, I'm going to gently just lift them out and drain them on some paper, just some kitchen roll. You then need to leave your oil to go completely cold before you dispose of it. So a couple of things. First of all, we've obviously just finished deep frying. Just keep a real eye on the bubbles in terms of the heat of your oil. If you think it's starting to get very ferocious, just take it off the heat and carry on. The residual heat of the oil will stay for a while. Just wanted to show you also, this is the egg we obviously didn't use. I'm just going to do it in the corner. So this is sort of, that is what it looks like after you've boiled it. So as you can see, it's very, very runny, and even some of the white is still quite liquidy around the edge. So that's just to show you what that looks like. Now for these. So the reason why you don't cook the egg the entire way through is obviously because once you are cooking it again for another 6 to 7 minutes, you are going to hopefully have cooked that white, keeping it runny in the middle. Say a prayer for me. So I'm using a bread knife just because these are still warm. When you can leave these just to go completely cold, and then they are easier to cut.
Ooh. Look at that! Fucking boom!
So as you can see, the sausage meat is completely cooked. The runny white of the yolk is basically cooked, and your yolk is still runny. Should we do the other one?
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure.
Probably eat it now, won't we?
Yeah.
Oh, look at those.
There you go.
Don't waste all that yolk though. We're going to have to eat them now.
Obviously serve these with some mustard or ketchup, whatever you want. I think a crack of black pepper on top always looks really nice. Maybe a sprinkling of chives if you really want to. You can obviously do them in mini form as well with quail's eggs. The timings are slightly different. So the timings for this Scotch egg, for a normal pork sausage Scotch egg, is 5 minute room temp egg into boiling water, straight into cold water, roll, pane, 7 minutes in the fat. You can also add things to your sausage meat like apple, black pudding, etc.
Or buy the Jolly Hog.
Or buy the Jolly Hog black pudding and apple sausages. They would be delicious, but we used them the other day. And yeah, that's basically it. Happy Scotch egging. Mwah!